Hi, this is just a kind of a video that has to do with something I was thinking about. I'm just laying here, kind of trying to go to sleep. I've been trying to go to sleep for like 2 hours now, and I don't know if it's because I'm thinking too much or what. Um, I just can't sleep worth a shit. So I've been trying to sleep for 2 hours since like 2:30, and I was planning on getting up at 6 when I went to bed at 12. That's not gonna happen now, because I like to get up early, and get stuff done. Anyway, what I was thinking about while I was just laying here, trying to go to sleep is the idea of what we have to do to get at being. Now, I've been rereading Heidegger's Being in Time, so that's probably what caused me to be thinking like this, because like before I fell asleep, I was reading before I decided to try to go to sleep, I was rereading. Rereading a part in this, and I was rereading the um, chapter two. Now, first of all, we have two parts in this book, and the first part has three divisions. Only the first two divisions of the first part appeared. The third division nor any of the second part never ever appeared. So we pretty much have an amazing treatise, however, a incomplete volume. So what I was reading was chapter 2 of division 1 of part 2. We have two divisions in part 1. Um, um, and it's um, that's the introduction. Where did my bookmark go? God. Ugh. Being in the world in general as the basic state of Dasein. So then in these following chapters, we talk about being in the worldhood of the world, or the in the world part. So we basically kind of break down and display, um, kind of just kind of break apart this idea of being in the world while not actually breaking it apart into pieces, but explaining the components of it. So, what I'm thinking about getting at being, we're talking about a distinction between the ontic and the ontological. When we talk about ontic, we talk about existence, or existence says, Zayat in German. We're talking about things that things that are given to us. Um, our average everydayness of Dasein has to do with this um, onticness, or this onticality, I guess would be the word. So we have ontic and we have ontological. Uh, and ontological, we're talking about being, talking about the being which is not, given in existence. And we have both of those things, the ontic and we have this priority. We have ontological priority in Dasein, and Dasein comports itself towards its being, and it has average everydayness, and this is pretty much what we use to get at our being. Um, we use to get at our being um, pretty much these little relations, being in the world, being towards death, being with as being alongside or dwelling, um, being as care, Zorga. We have these, in this book alone, we have various, um, we do have various combinations of being. Dasein is being there. Being in the world is the main um, component. By saying that Dasein comports itself towards its being. Dasein has average everydayness. It has ontological priority. So through these little relations, being in as such, being in the world, and through these relations, and in the chapters of the first division here, excuse me, we get these ways that we can get at our being, of who we are, our being, our ontological being. So we can have a certain ontological or a certain ontology of our being. We can have a certain ontology of ourselves, and I would classify this kind of ontology as a phenomenological ontology because it's ontology of um, our being. And in Sartre, we have the being in itself, the being for itself, and the being for others. We have these three. Three things are also relations of being, but the difference about this is that when we say being in the world or being as care, Zorga, being in as such, being towards death, we are not, we're not talking about a state of affairs, so to speak. We're talking about this entity. Let's say we're talking about being in the world. We're talking about being in the world as a ontological entity of being. We're talking about being with, or being alongside as a single ontological entity. We're not talking about the being for. We're not talking about being in the world or being there as a fact or a state of affairs. It's a ontological entity of being, and these entities of our being are caused by our being in the world, not as in water being in glass, but more as the fact that being in the world for Heidegger is that it's not I'm here, that's there, but this is the world. I am a part of the world. It's not this is me, that's that, but it's more this is all the world. And me, I happen to be here, and this is all a single ontological entity because of what is given to me. It's all single. It's brought into single ontological entities in such things as being in the world, or being with, or being towards death, or being as care, or these things. So that's how we get this. These are single ontological entities. We have this in Heidegger, we have this in Sartre, and I mean, Martin Buber is not really, we're not talking really about ontology with Buber. We're talking about interpersonal relationships, but with Buber's I thou and the I it, we're talking about each of those having a corresponding reality. With I thou, we have a certain reality. With I it, we have a certain reality. So in things like this that are connected together by these little dashes, we're not talking about states of affairs or or facts, but we're talking about these things as entities, ontological entities. But the point is, the real issue is that these are also ontological entities, but are ontological at the same time as they are ontic. They are given to us in terms of what is given to us. It is given to certain phenomena are given to us, which show, which give us certain kinds of ideas. It gives some people ideas of, um, you know, me being here, that being there, but to phenomenology, it gives you the idea that this is all the world, and I happen to be here, um, and this is all the world, and my being is together in one entity because of my being here and my experience of this given, of what is given to me, and my intentional experience of it. We do have a single entity. In being in the world, we have a single entity. We have a single ontological entity. So the way to get at being, the way to get at our being, is to primarily look at how our being is, in how our being corresponds to the world, and not to separate being and the world, but to bring those two things together because of the fact how what is given to me brings me in contact with the world. Um, and, and essentially, um, we get at our being our being by looking at ontology in this manner. We get at our being by looking at ourselves and the world not as separate things, but as one entity together. Not trying to say that we're idealists or solipsists, but we're talking about this as merely a phenomenological idea of what is given to me is what is given to me, and my being in the world is there because of what is given to me. So I don't know. This is just a little discussion about phenomenological ontology. Um, just because I think it's very interesting to think about these entities of being in the world, and to think about them as single entities of being, and rather um, not not states of affairs or things that we can cut up. We can't cut up. To sum up, we can't cut up the world from the object. The given things are given to me, and they are given to me as things in themselves, in the phenomenological sense, and I have intentional uh, experiences of those things. So in that, we have a certain oneness with what is given to me, in that there is a certain kind of unity between myself and the world, which we get being in the world. That's where we get being in the world, because because being in the world is one ontological entity of being, because of my Dasein existence, and how Dasein is in each case mine, Yemine, or Yeminekite. So yeah, that's my little discussion of what I was thinking about. Maybe I can sleep now.